maximize the issue of consumer choice. And joining us right now to talk about this balance is a gent named Bill Wirtz. He's the senior policy analyst for the Consumer Choice Center, and that's consumerchoicecenter.org. And Bill, I think you and I are very much on the same page. You know, we take a skeptical view of government, greater levels of government involvement, but there's some recent polling that shows that people want more government involvement on U.S. government involvement on labeling and food safety. Talk about this and your thoughts here.
Yeah, so the Ipsos poll is quite interesting. Overall, it says that most Americans want the government to take more steps to make food safer. That's the bottom line of sort of in the direction in which the poll goes, and it also shows that it's bipartisan. So 71% of Republicans, 66% of Democrats all share the sentiment. People want the government to make food safer, to make guidelines more transparent, to have people understand it better, and they also 67% say that they think that foods that contain pesticides or artificial food dyes are not safe to eat, even if they are approved by FDA. So there's a big distrust in the food system right now. Is
that sort of in relation to the lies that were being told to the public through the COVID situation? I mean, I think clearly there's a greater distrust of the institutions that are out there. And why are they trusting them more now? Or have we somehow entered an era in which the distrust of government institutions that came out of the COVID pandemic is now translating into a distrust of corporate institutions? Where's the disconnect?
Yeah, I mean, so the thing is, my understanding is that Americans see that there is something wrong with the way people eat and that there's a lack of exercise, and as a result of that, there's health consequences. But I also think that on a political level, what is a bit confusing is this battle between HHS and USDA. So Brooke Rollins and RFK Jr. go in different directions. And Donald Trump put them in those positions in order to battle each other on what are the interests of the farm and food system versus the health systems. And I believe that this confuses people to the extent that, if one is looking after consumers and the other one is looking after the food industry, then we should side with the ones that are for consumers. But I think that sort of distorts the reality of how safe or unsafe the food really is. So I think I would issue caution to go too heavy on the regulatory front just because of that feeling.
Right. I mean, here's the thing that I know that regardless of the public sentiment regarding something, if you wash your produce, you're going to get rid of the pesticides that may cause problems down the road. And how about we just do a better job of washing our vegetables? Generally, this seems to be an issue here that doesn't require greater levels of government intervention. Let's talk about this, but let's also get to this idea of it's okay if businesses decide that they're going to change formulas to meet consumer demand. The public has to realize that there may be trade-offs there as well. But what we don't want is for government to sort of set some kind of a political goal that may not have any relationship to some kind of reality, either consumer reality or scientific reality on the ground.
Yeah, there's always trade-offs when you make these regulatory decisions. I mean, the Democrats for a long time were saying, well, we should get rid of all pesticides, and if food becomes more expensive, so be it. And that's right. That was clearly not a good way to go about it. So we need to
hold on. Wait a minute, Bill. Get rid of pesticides. Get rid of corporate farms. Get rid of anything where food is mass-produced in ways and then somehow transported to the marketplace to get to the market. I mean, all of those things that make food less expensive, the Democrats wanted to get rid of them, and yet you get the Alyssa Slockins of the world who are carping about prices going up, which they're not at this point in time. Sorry, go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, so and this, what the Democrats were proposing is essentially this European model that is very, very strict. And when you compare then farm incomes and how much Europeans pay for food, it's really not a good way to go about this. I mean, we saw all the farmer protests all over Europe. This is not a good way to go about it. What I do fear is that RFK Jr. takes this European precautionary approach to some extent, where he says, well, unless you can prove it's absolutely safe, or if we have one rat study that causes a bit of a problem. We need to ban it all. And this doesn't give businesses actual confidence, and that might also increase costs. Also, like just on the trade-offs, just to give people a perspective on what it means. So red dye 3 will be phased out in 2027. This is an FDA decision. It's a food dye. It colors food red. Yes. As an alternative, the only good alternative we have right now is something called carmine. And carmine gets made. It's a natural food dye, but we crush up insects.
Right.
So it's an insect called Dactylopius coccus costa, and we crush up that insect, and then it makes the food red. So essentially, we'd be eating the bugs, and I'm not entirely sure people necessarily want that. So we also have to when we phase one thing out, we need to think about the next thing that we're phasing in, and will it increase costs for consumers? And I think that's where we need to be always cautious. So I think everyone agrees we need to make Americans healthier, but let's look at the trade-offs that are actually involved here before we become too hasty on that.
I've just written a couple of pieces on the issue of risk and comparative risk assessment, and the trade-offs are, what happens if you may make food healthier and less processed, but if you make it more expensive so fewer people can eat it, there's a trade-off there. We're talking with Bill Wirtz. He's a senior policy analyst for the Consumer Choice Center. I will never forget this, Bill. When I was younger, I came home one day, but I was probably in high school, and I was drinking a soda, and we didn't have a lot of soda in my house growing up. And I said to my mom that the soda was more healthy because there was no dye in it. This wasn't Pepsi Clear. This was some other clear soda. And my mom just looked at me and said, Andrew, it's got all kinds of sugar in it. It's not more healthy. I mean, maybe marginally more healthy because there's no dye in it, but that doesn't mean that it's not less fat. And again, getting into the issues of risks and trade-offs here, we seem to have a problem of focusing on the frippery as opposed to the substance. Talk a little bit about that before I let you go.
Yeah, I think we need to understand that we all live different lives, and the government needs to recognize people have a different way of going about it. Some people consume calories that if I match them on that, I wouldn't be fitting through the door. But they also exercise a lot, so they burn those calories. So we all live different lives. So I think the approach of an educational system with a food pyramid where everyone is supposed to be pressed into the same model, that is reminiscent of the times when socialism was more popular, and we shouldn't go down that route. And I think if I have one takeaway that I can also give away that I think is important for people to know when we talk about pesticides and food safety is to trust the farmers. I think this is incredibly important. Right. The farmers are not out there to poison consumers. What they try to do is protect their yields and do it in a safe way. And they are the experts. Running a farm is not the way it used to be 50 years ago. Now it's all computers. It's very complicated. And we need to trust the farmers to do the right thing. So I think an important takeaway is also to listen to the farmer representatives and have them on the table when we make sort of widespread regulation there. So that that we don't have happen what happened in Europe, where all these farmer protests essentially happened because nobody listened to the farmers.
Hear, hear. Well, listen, Bill, how do folks find out more about the good work you guys are doing at the Consumer Choice Center?
They can go on consumerchoicecenter.org. They can find us on all the social media platforms, and they can also find me on X at WirtzBill.
Go and check out Bill Wirtz. WIRTZ is how you find him. Wirtz Bill. I also tweeted out about that earlier. Bill Wirtz, thank you so very much for joining us today.